Hi, Jodie Smith here with Remax Escarpment Team Logue. I'm here with Derrick Johnston from Axiom Mortgage. Hi, Derrick.
Hi.
So today we're going to have a conversation about what the mortgage process looks like from the stage of pre-approval and to once you acquire that mortgage. So we're going to dive right in.
Sure.
So Derrick, why should somebody work as a mortgage agent or broker as opposed to the bank?
Yeah, so when you work with a mortgage agent, our job is to go and shop and find the best solution for your needs. So as a borrower or someone who's looking for a mortgage, you can go to your bank. That's obviously an option. I went to my bank for my first mortgage because I didn't know what other options there were. But when you're with a mortgage agent, we get to shop around. It saves you from having to do all of that. Imagine going to 4 different banks and having to have a multi-hour conversation with each one of those banks.
Yeah.
And not knowing the process or anything like that, right? Each lender has their own box of products. And if you don't fit in that box, you're not going to get approved for a mortgage. So you go into one bank, the very first bank you go into, and they say, we can't get you a mortgage, that's going to be a bit defeating, right? It doesn't mean you don't qualify for a mortgage, it just means you don't qualify for a mortgage with that lender. So when you're with a mortgage agent, we get to look at the whole picture and find out, we know where to go with that whole, the person's situation, right?
Great. So, I know that there is a process that I always talk to my clients about getting pre-approved. So basically holding a rate for a certain amount of days. Can you walk us through that? Because obviously, interest rates have been changing quite rapidly over the last several months.
Yeah, so you can do a rate hold for up to 120 days usually. And that's only for a fixed rate product. If you're intending on going with a variable rate mortgage, we can hold the discount on the variable rate. So when you get a variable rate mortgage, you're typically going to get a discount off of the prime rate, right? So we can hold the discount on the prime rate, but we can't control prime. So if I get you pre-approved and we do a rate hold on the variable side of things, it's not the rate we're holding, it's the discount. So if prime changes from the time of the pre-approval to when you actually close, your rate's actually going to change, right? So that can go up, it can affect qualifying and whatnot as well. So when people talk about rate holds, we're typically talking about fixed rate products.
Right, that makes sense. So, this next question applies to, both people who are buying and selling. You want to know what your bank is appraising the value of your home for. So that process, how does that work? Who pays for it?
Yeah, so the appraisal process involves someone going out to the home and it's a professional, they've been certified to be appraisers. They go and do a full evaluation of the home and determine what the property's value is based on some comparables in the area. There's other ways of doing it. There's auto valuations that can be done as well, desktop appraisals. But one of the common one that people know about is when someone actually comes to the home and they're taking pictures, they're looking at square footage, number of bedrooms, all that sort of stuff, and they run a comparison and find out what the value of that home is. Because the lender wants to make sure that what you're paying for that home is the right amount of money, right? And of course, over the past couple of years, or not the past couple of years, this past year, we've seen some people get in trouble with those, especially on new builds. Right? If someone bought a new build at the beginning of 2022, they paid a high price for that product, and then they go to move in, December 2022, and the property value has decreased a ton. That borrower is now on the hook for the difference.
Absolutely, makes total sense. Now, obviously, I'm always big on knowing your finances, putting your money in the right places. So for a lot of us, a big chunk of our money is tied up in RSPs. So now, let's say you want to use a portion of that towards a down payment of your home. How does that process work?
Yeah, so that's an option only to first-time home buyers. And the maximum you can take out of your RSPs is $35,000.
Okay.
So a couple could take out $70,000 of their RSPs as long as they're both first-time home buyers. There's a grace period of 2 years.
Okay.
And then they have 15 years to pay that RSP back or claim it as income on their taxes.
Okay, that's great. So, since you touched on first-time home buyers, I just want to briefly touch on that a little bit. are there any, perks, I guess you would call it? Would the bank perhaps waive a land transfer tax? Is there anything that, they provide to help first-time home buyers?
Yeah, for sure. So you touched on land transfer tax already, so I'll cover that first. As a first-time home buyer, you can get a land transfer tax rebate. I believe that's $4,000 or $4,275. It's somewhere around there. You get a rebate on your land transfer tax. So that's obviously helpful because that's an out-of-pocket expense when you're purchasing your home. You've got the first-time home buyers plan with the RSPs that we've already touched on. There's the first-time home buyers incentive, which the government can match your down payment. The difficulty with that one is the government then owns a percentage of your home, right? So when you go to sell, you gotta give the government that percentage of the equity in your home, which obviously is not fun for anybody. So I have yet to do any of one of those, but the product is available. And new for 2023 is another savings account that I don't believe is even started yet, but it is going to in 2023, and that's the first-time home buyers savings account.
Yes.
Similar to a tax-free savings account. You'll be able to put $8,000 a year away to a maximum of $40,000 to put towards the down payment.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great incentive. I mean, it's been very tough for first-time buyers to get into the market. So, I mean, obviously, interest rates are high. There's a lot of stress surrounding that, but there are some benefits. It's allowing people to get their foot through the door right now. Last thing I'm going to touch on, let's say everything goes well, we're in our home, we get a better job, we get a raise, your finances change. Is there any way that you can pay chunks of money towards your mortgage to bring that down?
Yeah, for sure. So each lender has their own what we call prepayment privileges. So you'll, depending on the lender, usually be able to put 15 to 20% down as a lump sum per year, and that's a percentage of the total balance of the mortgage.
Right.
Or you can increase your payment by that same percentage. So if you're paying monthly, you could increase your monthly payment by 15% or 20%, and obviously that accelerates paying down the principal. Overall, you're going to pay a lot less interest.
And you know what? I'm going to touch on one more thing as you were just saying that trigger rate. I think, historically, a lot of people have not had to think about that until, what's been happening as of recently. So can you explain that? And, I think it'd be very beneficial for people to understand how their mortgage is working behind the scenes with the interest rate hikes.
Yeah, so trigger rate applies to a borrower that has a variable rate product where their payment is static. So as the variable rate changes, their monthly payment doesn't change, right? So what happens is the client's amortization is going to adjust, the amount of money that's going towards interest increases, the amount going to principal decreases.
Right.
When we hit our trigger rate, that means the amount of money that you're paying each month is at the point where you're only covering the interest payment. So when we go beyond that, you're now in this situation where you're not paying enough money to the bank to cover even the interest.
Right.
Right. So then the bank will either send a letter or an email saying, hey, here's the situation. We're going to be increasing your monthly payment to not be in the negative anymore.
Yeah. So I think that's really, really, really important for people to know now with the rapid interest rate changes that we've seen over the past year. And then we're going to end off with a little fun one. So recently, Derrick did a post asking everybody to talk about what were the interest rates at when you bought your first home, because obviously there's a lot of panic right now. For a lot of people, they've never, they may have owned for the last 5 years, so they've never seen interest rates this high. So they're like, this is the highest it's ever been. But I think it's all about perspective. So, would you like to share some of the responses you got on that? I thought that was a really fun post.
Yeah, for sure. The post worked out amazingly because I got the answers that I wanted.
Yeah.
And basically the interest rates that we're dealing with right now are fairly normal when we look at the history of mortgage interest rates. My first mortgage was in September 2005, and I was $459 5-year fixed. Just went to my bank. I had some responses that were in the fives. I even got a private response to someone paid $920. And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
And then obviously there's the horror stories of the 80s when,
course.
you know, interest rates were in the high teens, low 20s.
Yeah.
Like imagine buying a house with a credit card.
I know. Yeah, so it's all about perspective. I think that's really important in moving forward. And, you know, I always talk to my clients about looking at the bigger picture. You know, the economy is a cycle. What goes up must come down.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, we are going to work our way through this. So anyways, guys, so thank you so much for joining me. And we'll chat again soon.
Thanks.